Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive. I'm Pat.
And I'm Jesse. It's really great to be with you all today.
Today, we're embarking on a pretty profound exploration. We're diving into a feeling that I think touches so many lives, yet it remains really complex to truly grasp. The feeling of abandonment. It's something that can, shape our relationships, echo through our family histories, and even subtly alter how we see the world around us.
It really can.
We've really dug through a stack of insightful sources for this one, everything from psychological research and some very raw personal stories to the surprisingly clear-cut world of legal definitions.
Right.
Our goal is to truly unpack what this feeling of abandonment actually means.
And our mission here in this deep dive is to explore the multifaceted nature of this incredibly powerful emotion. We want to help you, our listener, understand not just what abandonment is on a conceptual level,
Yeah.
but why it leaves such a deep imprint, how it molds our inner landscape, and maybe most importantly, to really shine a light on pathways for healing. Because healing is possible.
Absolutely.
It's definitely a complex topic, but we're aiming to offer some clarity, maybe some unexpected insights, and perhaps even a fresh perspective you haven't considered.
So let's start by trying to, wrap our heads around this feeling itself. When we talk about abandonment, it's easy to just picture someone physically leaving, right?
That's the common image.
But our sources consistently highlight something much deeper. It's primarily a profoundly subjective emotional state. It's about how it feels inside.
Exactly. That's key. One definition we found describes emotional abandonment as a deeply personal state where individuals feel, undesired, maybe left behind, intensely insecure, or even discarded.
Discarded, what?
Yeah, think of it as feeling suddenly cut off from a crucial source of emotional sustenance. Or sometimes it's a slow, painful erosion of connection.
Yeah.
It often stems from loss or separation, yes, but the internal experience is what truly defines it.
And the pain involved is just visceral, isn't it?
Yeah.
One participant in a study we looked at put it so simply but so powerfully. They said, I think abandonment is rather like an illness. It's rather like an ache, but you can't take a pill for it. That really captures it, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It speaks to that internal kind of unfixable quality. Like you can't just treat the symptom.
Right. And that leads us right into where a lot of this feeling often takes root.
Childhood.
Yes, childhood experiences. And it's not always the big, dramatic physical departure we might imagine. Sometimes it's much more subtle.
And maybe even more insidious in some ways. Childhood trauma is a widely recognized cause, definitely. This can stem from obvious traumatic events, sure, but often it's something less visible.
Like what?
Like a pervasive lack of affection, maybe an insufficient emotional connection with parents or caregivers, or just feeling consistently unsafe around them. Not necessarily physically unsafe, but emotionally unsafe.
Okay.
Children who endure that kind of environment often internalize this core belief that people, even the closest ones, just can't be trusted.
And what's really eye-opening and something I think a lot of listeners might recognize is this concept of childhood emotional neglect, or CEN.
Yes, CEN. It's huge.
This isn't about physical lack. So many people describe being housed and fed. Their basic physical needs were met, but they weren't truly seen or heard emotionally.
Exactly. We found quotes like, I wasn't raised, I was housed and fed.
Wow.
Or another one, my feelings and emotions were the last things on my parents' minds. It creates this silent internal raggedness, this deep emotional void, even if on the outside, everything looks perfectly fine.
That resonates so deeply, it's like a neglect that leaves no visible scars, but the inside is just completely altered.
Precisely.
And we found a really raw and powerful personal story from Kelsey Elizabeth Matthews that just illustrates this so vividly. Her life had turmoil even before birth. Her mother struggled with substance abuse.
Right.
She was born prematurely, immediately separated, taken to the NICU, missing that crucial early skin-to-skin contact, which we know is vital for bonding.
Absolutely vital.
And as she grew up, that fear of being left just escalated. She remembers these terrifying nights her mother wouldn't come back, and she'd wake up checking if her mother was still breathing.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And things like her mother using the silent treatment as a weapon, or Kelsey being left alone in a hospital during a medical emergency. These experiences created this persistent, deep dread that just permeated her childhood.
It's incredibly hard to hear stories like that, but they're so important. This kind of early experience or just inconsistent, unpredictable nurturing, it profoundly shapes us. Psychologists talk about insecure attachment styles developing from this.
Like anxious or avoidant?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anxious, where you crave closeness but you're terrified of rejection. Avoidant, where you kind of shut down emotional needs to stay independent. Or even fearful avoidant, which is a really tough mix of both.
Wow.
The way we attach or fail to attach to our first caregivers creates a blueprint, really, for how we connect or struggle to connect with others our whole lives.
And what's so tough about this kind of abandonment grief is how different it is from other losses. It's not just sadness. It often triggers this deep self-devaluation.
Questioning your own worth.
And this primal existential fear, it forces these awful questions like, am I just unworthy of love? Am I doomed to be alone?
It hits at the very core of who you are because it happened when you were so dependent, so vulnerable. It cuts deep.
So if these are the roots, how does this play out for adults? How does this invisible baggage show up in their lives today?
Oh, the manifestations are incredibly varied and almost always deeply painful. We often see people really struggling to form healthy, stable relationships.
Makes sense.
There's often a pervasive fear of intimacy because getting close means risking that deep, primal wound again. And that often goes with a profound distrust of others, constantly scanning for signs they might leave.
Always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Exactly. Then there's hypersensitivity to criticism, even imagined criticism, low self-esteem, that core belief of being unlovable. And tragically, this often leads to people-pleasing.
Trying to earn love, almost.
Sort of. Forgoing your own needs, your boundaries, hoping that if you're just good enough, they won't leave. We saw a Reddit comment that was so candid. I am an obsessive people-pleaser, which is really just a way to control manage others' feelings toward me.
Wow, that's insightful. People-pleasing is control. I hadn't thought of it that way.
It's a defense mechanism, right? And we also see anger. Sometimes it's explosive lashing out, accusations, punishment.
Which pushes people away.
Exactly, creating the very thing they fear. Other times, it's this deeply repressed anger, a constant internal battle. And then there's the chronic anxiety, the hypervigilance, that feeling of being scared of everything.
Like that quote, I have this innate anxiety of not being safe. Just always on edge.
Always on edge. And the emotional toll can be just severe. It can lead to struggles like self-harm, chronic depression that feels like a heavy cloak you can't take off, even suicidal thoughts.
That's so serious.
One person shared, I lived my whole life in a depressed state while publicly trying to maintain a facade of good cheer. No one knew about the suicidal thoughts that plagued me. It leads to this persistent feeling of having a gigantic hole inside my soul.
That profound emptiness.
Yes, it's not just sadness, it's this cavernous feeling that nothing seems to fill. Incredibly isolating.
It sounds like such a challenging landscape to navigate, and yeah, for many, it's a lifelong journey. But thankfully, our sources also talk about healing. They offer pathways, strategies to move towards feeling more secure, more whole.
Yes, absolutely. And it's not about fixing it overnight, but learning to live with it differently. One key psychological tool, especially powerful in relationships, is learning to express anger as pain.
Okay, how does that work?
So instead of lashing out, which, as we said, repels people, the focus shifts. You express the underlying hurt or sadness or fear that's fueling the anger.
So instead of, I hate you.
Right. Maybe something like, when you didn't call last night, I felt really scared and alone, and I really wanted to hear from you. See the difference? It invites empathy, not defense.
That's a huge shift. Vulnerability instead of accusation.
Precisely. Another powerful tool, and this takes conscious effort, is contextualization.
Contextualization.
Yeah, more. It's about actively learning to distinguish between, say, temporary unavailability, someone's busy, stressed, just made a mistake, and that deep primal feeling of being abandoned.
So not jumping to the worst conclusion.
Exactly. Recognizing the actual context can massively diminish the intensity of the pain and fear. It's about challenging those automatic, often childhood-based, catastrophic thoughts. It's a cognitive reframing.
That makes a lot of sense. It takes practice, I imagine.
Oh, definitely. And crucially, the sources really emphasize learning to be happy alone by cultivating self-compassion.
Being kind to yourself.
Yes. Actively replacing that harsh inner critic with soothing, healing activities. Consciously choosing to find joy in things you might normally only do with others. It's about building emotional autonomy.
So your well-being isn't totally dependent on someone else being there.
Exactly. It's foundational for internal security. And this links right into reclaiming your adult power.
Oh, so?
As an adult, that deep fear of abandonment, while it feels incredibly real, doesn't usually pose an imminent physical danger like it might have for a child.
Right, your survival isn't literally on the line in the same way.
Right. So the real lasting healing comes from within. By choosing yourself, nurturing that internal sense of security that was maybe missing earlier, becoming your own secure base, essentially.
Becoming your own secure base. I like that.
And of course, therapy is often a huge part of this. Things like acceptance and commitment therapy, internal family systems, EMDR, these are mentioned as really helpful.
Ways to process the trauma and learn new coping skills.
Exactly. Cultivating ways to be present, accept difficult feelings, and maybe rewrite some of those old scripts.
And beyond formal therapy.
The power of genuine connection and support groups is massive. Sharing with people who get it, who've been there, incredibly validating. It breaks that isolation.
Yeah, knowing you're not alone in it.
Absolutely. And simple mindfulness practices too, focusing on gardening, playing music, anything that anchors you in the present. It stops you from getting swept away by those old fear-based thoughts.
Little anchors in the storm.
Well put. The healing journey, it's often described as peeling layers. It can involve really deep, uncomfortable feelings. One source said it's like bereavement. You get through it, but you don't get over it. It is like a dull ache.
For which there are no treatments.
Yeah.
I remember that quote.
But even with that difficult truth, the sources also show incredible resilience. People finding strength, finding uniqueness, even positive transformation because of these experiences, not just despite them.
That's really hopeful. The human spirit's a capacity for growth.
It really is.
Now, it's fascinating how one word, abandonment, covers such a vast emotional space. But, shifting gears a bit, it's also worth noting that this same word has very specific, objective legal meanings, totally different from the feeling.
Oh, absolutely. A crucial distinction. It really highlights how complex language is. Legally, abandonment is generally about the intentional relinquishment of possession without giving ownership to someone else.
Intentional relinquishment, okay.
It's a pretty precise two-part test. There's the objective part, the actual physical absence, giving something up, and then the subjective part, the intent, the clear purpose not to return or repossess.
So just leaving something unused isn't enough, legally.
Not necessarily. We saw a case where non-use of an easement that's a right to use someone's land for 22 years wasn't enough on its own to prove abandonment. Intent was key.
Interesting.
Same with just failing to maintain property. It doesn't automatically mean legal abandonment. This applies to personal stuff like an old car or even, bizarrely, a meteorite landing on your land.
A meteorite. Okay.
But interestingly, you generally can't legally abandon the title to real estate, the ownership itself, though you can abandon certain interests in it, like that easement example.
Got it. And this legal definition pops up in family situations too, right? With real consequences.
Yes, very significantly. Child abandonment, legally, means leaving a child without necessary care or supervision or showing a clear intent to give up all parental responsibility.
And there are time frames for that.
Often, yes. State laws might define it as, say, 3 months or a year. And this can lead to termination of parental rights, criminal charges for non-support. It's where that deep emotional pain can translate into legal action.
Wow. And in marriage.
Desertion or abandonment can be grounds for a fault divorce in some places. Usually means one spouse leaves the home without justification for a set period, often a year.
Just ups and leaves.
Right. And there's even something called constructive abandonment.
Constructive? What's that?
That's where one spouse's behavior, like abuse or maybe constantly refusing intimacy without cause, effectively forces the other spouse to leave, even if they weren't the one who physically walked out first.
So the law recognizes the emotional reality there.
In a way, yes. It shows how the word abandonment carries such different weight, doesn't it? The personal, subjective feeling versus a precise, objective legal standard with very real, tangible consequences.
Same word, totally different worlds.
Exactly.
Well, this has been a truly profound, deep dive today into the feeling of abandonment from its earliest roots, through its adult echoes, and even into its distinct legal definitions.
We've really explored that intense internal grief, the challenges in relationships, the fear. But just as importantly, we've touched on that remarkable human capacity for resilience, for self-compassion, for healing.
And understanding these distinctions, emotional versus legal, the internal pain versus the path forward, it can be incredibly empowering, can it? It helps us look at our own experiences, and maybe others, with more empathy, more clarity. And it reminds us that even from that deep ache, there are ways to find security within ourselves and build better connections.
So maybe something to think about as you go about your day. How does recognizing these different sides of abandonment change how you see things, how you offer support, or how you cultivate your own self-worth. It's a powerful lesson, really, in connection and resilience.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We truly appreciate you listening.
Yes, thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Remember to come back for our next deep dive. And please, if you can, take a moment to like, share, and leave a comment. We really do love hearing from you.